Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we normally discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here is my sole co-host,
Archlector George.
And today, for this special episode, we actually have Bloody Niner on from Reddit.
How's it going, fans?
Mm-hmm. And we will be covering Joe's Shattered Sea trilogy, actually. So let's get started. Now, as usual, I am going to have to start this off by thanking you all again until the end of time.
We're thanking you, Josh. That's you.
Yeah, Josh. Josh is our biggest one.
just one of the little people. That's all.
One of the little people. One of the many little people. So just want to thank you for, listening, hanging out, chilling with us. Great. We appreciate it. And we will remind you to follow us on our social media platforms and our YouTube page. Anywho.
Yeah, there's going to be an extra long theory video coming out on the YouTube in the next month or so. It might already be out at this point, actually, because this is going to be in 2 or 3 weeks, isn't it?
Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've got a huge, me and Trey have got a huge fucking video coming up, so look out for that. It'll be fun.
Yeah, so we're doing everything on the YouTube page except for uploading our episodes, apparently. So, just stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned. All right, so we're going to go straight into it. The structure of this episode is going to be a little different, but it's very freeform, It's loosey-goosey. It's an Australian breakdancer kind of thing. So we are going to start off with basically a non-spoilerish cap of the Shattered Sea and various topics, and then we are going to give you all the opportunity to peace out if you haven't read it, because we will discuss spoilers. So if you haven't read this trilogy that's been out for, I don't know, how many years, 10, 15 years, that is your fault if you get spoiled. So let's start. Josh, I know you wanted to talk about the Shattered Sea, and it was your idea. You brought this to our attention. We agreed. Harrison could not make it because he is a dum-dum. So I will turn the reins over to you. I know it looks like the first thing you wanted to talk about was possibly comparisons with the First Law, correct?
Yeah, much appreciated there, Jeffrey, and Harrison being a dum-dum. Like that's a given, man. It happens every time. Much love to the absent member. The reason that I really brought this up, and we see it on Reddit all the time, right, is that question comes out. It's like, hey, I've just finished all the books of the First Law. Like, what else can I read that's like Joe? And 9 times out of 10, they have not read. Whoever's asking has not read Shattered Sea. It's like, maybe read his other books. I don't know. Like, that could be a start. But then, the pushback always comes like, well, I thought it was YA, or it doesn't really tie in, or is it really that good? And like all that stuff starts happening. Like, folks, if you like Joe and the First Law, like these are more books that he wrote, like right in the middle of the standalones, really. So Best Served Cold came out before Half of King, right, George? And then it was Half of King, Half the World, Half the War. In between, I think, Best Served Cold and Heroes. I don't know. It was like all spattered in there. So while he was doing like his great work on Best Served Cold that you guys have been covering, he was also writing these other books in a different universe. And kind of want to just talk about it, right? Like, is it really YA? How does it really apply? How does it compare? What are the similarities and differences? So
I like the YA comparison because it does have that kind of tone to it, and especially the fact that it's there's not as much swearing. There's there's a few romances that have that sort of YA flavor to it, and that's good. That's fine. There's just a style that Joe kind of has to fit to get this audience that he wants for these books specifically, and that's fine. First Law comparisons are absolutely hilarious. There are so many phrases that you see in the First Law, like especially lots of Glocters. There's the life is a string of like misery that is strung together by disappointments, and it's like it's paraphrased, but there's one of them in there definitely.
Yeah. So there was like the thing that stuck out to me, just the way Joe's prose comes across is like, it, right? When you're reading a Joe chapter, paragraph, thought from a character, like you can tell like that's Joe. And really it might not be as complicated in this, right? Like he might not make it as heady in the Shattered Sea as he does in First Law, but it's still there. And I think like the YA part of it, when you're thinking about, like you said, younger characters, romances, and that kind of thing, I think overall Shattered Sea, it's shorter, right? So each book is like 330 to 360 pages. So like the whole thing is 900 something, right? Under 1,000 pages for the whole thing, really close to that. And then you don't have as many POVs. So like it starts off in the first one, there's only one POV. You're only following one character. In the second book, you have two. In the third book, you have three. So it progresses and gets a little bit more complex. And I mean, I think he did that pretty intentionally, right? Is like, if he's going to try and bring in a younger audience and get other people to read it, it's like, don't overwhelm them with like 7, 8 different POVs going all over the place. Like, let him get into the story, and then he builds on it as he goes. And every single one of these characters like starts off somewhere between like 15 and 17 or something when they're a POV. They're all like teenagers when they start off, maybe 18, a little bit older.
I think
but
Yarvi's even a little bit younger, isn't he? He's like
No, I think
13, 14
Yarvi
or
was
something
like 20. I think Yarvi was like 20.
he definitely does, because in the second book he's
like in his
definitely
early 20s.
Early
Yeah.
20s, and then by the third book, yeah, he is. And Yarvi is that POV that, this is not any kind of spoiler thing because it's all over the book. It says it right on the back, like what happens. But Yarvi is that first POV character that you're following. And then the story kind of grows from him, right? Like it goes out from him, acquaintances that he have. And the funny thing is, if you catch it, if you're paying attention, both the POVs from the second book are in the first book, just very like hidden. And then the 3 characters that are in the third book are also mentioned or present in the second book too. So like you see them as like a tertiary character or cameo on the side, but they don't really come out.
When we get into spoilers, I want to talk about those characters.
I think the other part, George, that you said is like there's not as much swearing. That's definitely it, right? It's not as graphic, it's not as mature, but it's not like a little kid's story. So when I was thinking about this, like my 12-year-old is reading the Hunger Games books right now. And as far as like the level of maturity of the Hunger Games books, right? There's romances, there's love interests, there's, not graphic death, but death, right? There's all that kind of angst and stuff that happens. Like these are probably right on par with that. And so she wants to get into them and read them. Like that next thing is when she finishes the latest Hunger Games book, she's going to get into these. And I think about it as like when I was 12 and 13, I had started reading Game of Thrones because I was 96, and I started reading Game of Thrones at 13, which that was maybe a little young to get into that. I don't know. But it's twisted my mind into where like Joe is my favorite kind of author because of that. But
I think I literally read the first law at 13, so I think that was a little bit too young.
Yeah, it's wild when you get in there and we're like, what? Incest and throwing kids out of towers, and what? Like, never seen this before. Like that didn't happen in The Hobbit.
Yeah, this book's really cool. Like, I hope he finishes it one day.
Goddamn.
God damn it, George. We have to have another discussion about that, but keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, the world building too. It's kind of the same way. Like if we were comparing how First Law works and how Shattered Sea works, it's like Joe doesn't do these big expositions, right? On like world building and setting it up. It's like you live it through the POV's eyes, and that's where the world building
100%.
comes from. So like Yarvi starts off, and you start learning like how does a society work? How are things set up? And it's like a Viking style society. It's a Norse kind of tale, right? And this isn't any spoiler because like I said, it's on the back, but he is like the younger son of the king, and he is destined to become like essentially the advisor to the king, right? It's like brother Yarvi. And all of that shit changes, right? So like he gets thrown for a loop, and that's like the kickoff point for him is like something bad happens, and now his whole world is turned upside down, and then you see where it comes from there, right? And so that's kind of like that same YA type of thing, right? Like you have this kid that thinks that this is the way that life is going to be, and then the rug gets pulled out.
Thrown into a whole nother world.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just want to touch again back on the whole YA aspect of it. I do find it funny that the characters aren't allowed to swear. They can't use any you can't say fuck or shit or anything like that. But slavery, it's fine. You can put slavery in there.
Cool. Yeah. Slavery, murder, whatever. It's totally good.
Yeah, that's all good. That's all the good shit,
Yeah, and I think so. Like for adult readers too, right? I found that first law, we all know, like sometimes you can get a little bit grim, a little bit dark when you're reading first law, right? It takes you to a little bit different place. Well, these ones with being shorter and being a little bit lighter material, I mean, it's still like some horrific shit still happens, but it's like if you want to read a good story that doesn't take as long and isn't going to take you to the deep dark pits of like say an Age of Madness chimney sweep, like and this is a good one, even for the adult, even the adult writers or readers, so.
Absolutely, and that's why I would absolutely contest it and say it's not as YA as it could be. And the fact that it is Joe, and he doesn't, like you say, he doesn't do the exposition dumps. He doesn't come in and go, "This is a world where people are like Vikings and it's a post-apocalypse and all that." He just goes, "No, here's a character, and you're gonna see the world through their eyes and understand it the way they understand it." And just that, I think, it marks it above every other fucking YA series, in my opinion.
Yeah, he never takes his readers, regardless of who they are, like their intelligence for granted. I feel like he gives the benefit of the doubt to the reader. Like you're going to figure this out. If you're reading this, you're going to figure it out. You're going to be okay. I don't need to spell it out XYZ for you. Like I don't need to put it that way. And I do feel that the plot, though, like through the whole series, like in each book and through the whole series, is much more succinct. And like there's twists, there's turns, there's stuff that comes up. But if you've read First Law,
then
I think that the plot, the plot of Shattered Sea is easy. It's familiar and it's easier to call out, but that doesn't make it like not enjoyable to me.
Right.
Like, I enjoyed the hell out of it. Thought it was great. I've read it twice now. Where like I've read First Law probably 6 or 7 times, but it's still good.
I think
like, oh shit, I forgot about that. That was awesome.
Oh, one thing I do have to say, just as a preface as well, is that I'm more of an audiobook reader than I am a actual physical book reader, and the audiobooks for this they're not great. There's definitely not Stephen Pacey. The guy reading them, I don't think he understands where to put inflections and emphasis sometimes. And that did detract from it a little bit. I am definitely going to have another go at just reading it.
Read, like actually read, George. Jeez.
These gatekeeping purists over here.
Purists on this side of the Atlantic, all right? It's YA, but it's kind of like barely YA, right? For me.
Yeah.
There are still... Joe has this thing where he... in the First Law, when he talks about how people die from swords, it's pretty graphic. And here he only tones down the brutality of it very slightly. Like there's a couple times, there's people's heads still get lopped off. He just kind of says their head lolled to the ground or whatever. A couple people got stabbed in the face. Even describing that right there, it's enough to go, ooh, ah, ee.
I mean, I think we even see some fucking dudes that have been skinned at some point as well.
We do. We do.
That is pretty graphic.
We see some people have been.
That doesn't even happen in the First Law.
Yet.
Another comparison I wanted to point out, because this stuck out to me, because it wasn't word for word, but the spirit was the same. It was in the second book. This is not much of a spoiler, but just a comparison, like the through lines between, sayings or thought processes. Thornbat through is like basically putting on, like, arming herself with so many knives. Somebody comments on it, and essentially she says something like, "You can't have too many knives."
Yeah.
So I was like,
there's definitely that.
I see what you did there. And wasn't there a relationship with an inanimate object, a la the pot? I feel like there was.
I missed that.
I feel like there was something.
There is, and now I don't want to say the wrong inanimate object, but I guess there was something that like, oh, the are you thinking about the bag of finger bones that she like takes with her everywhere?
Oh, it could be that, but I don't know. I thought it was like inanimate object somewhere, maybe in the first or second book.
Maybe.
I'll figure it out. But yeah, go ahead.
I think that too, like if we're looking at the comparisons from First Law to Shattered Sea too, like it's pretty unanimous that Joe's strongest writing ability is bringing characters to life, like making a character that you believe that they're a real person and their motivations and why they do things like stand out, whether it's good or bad. So like that's exactly the same thing for Shattered Sea. Like these characters have more juvenile motivations. They have different things when they're starting out. They have more naivete, right, with the way the world works until they find out that it doesn't. But like his character work is freaking awesome, even in this. And there's a couple like in the I think the second book is probably my favorite. I will say that. I think Half the World was my favorite.
Yes,
but just
same.
like Brand and Thorn and like the back and forth between them, and then just those two characters individually of what they're doing, like they're my favorite ones out of the series, I think, in the story and what happens. But
I definitely think Half the World and those two characters really. For the listeners, I accidentally started Half a War and I got about 3 hours into it before I realised it wasn't the second book. So when I did eventually go back and start the second book, I was like, okay, yeah, no, this makes it. I actually like these characters. I know who they are. A little bit spoiled for myself, but that's okay.
George.
I even find that the through line for the plot, not necessarily spoilers, but it mirrors Before They Hang very much. I think, you know, they go on this big journey and then they get there and it's like, oh shit, the thing we came for isn't here. And that's like literally word for word almost.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's also one of those things too where like Joe, you know, a lot of authors suffer from like second book syndrome, right, where the second book in a series or the second movie in a trilogy, like those kinds of things are always kind of weaker. I don't think like with Joe it's always the opposite for me. Before They're Hanged, Trouble with Peace, and then Half the World with this one, like those were the stronger, more enjoyable books, I thought, and not taking away from books 1 or book 3 on any of the trilogies. Like they're all good, but I always like the middle one better.
I hear you.
I feel like Joe is one of those authors where he almost certainly has these things planned out. He plans the whole trilogy and writes it that way, rather than some who would write the first book and then go, "Oh, this is popular. I'll write 2 more." And I think that really helps kind of, you know, get rid of the sequelitis that a lot of people suffer from.
Yeah, definitely.
Another thing was I love the continuing of the tradition of naming characters after inanimate objects. Thorn and Brand, perfect. Yeah. That's a proper Joeism.
Yep. I did take some notes on like the timing of it too, and so just looking at this, like Half a King obviously starts off, and it doesn't say exactly how old Yarvi is in there, I don't think. But then Half a World is about 3 years later, and you get that like in the text it says, you know, so and so happened 3 summers ago or something like that, right? And then so then Half a War is 2 years after Half the World. So like, by the end of it, Yarvi is like 22, 23, maybe 24-ish, somewhere in there, I would think. But Thorn and Brand probably end up being about 19 or 20. And then Cole and Riv, which are characters from the third one, right? They probably end up being around 18, 19. They're a little bit younger than Thorn and Brand, but not that much younger. And then Skara and Wraith. Wraith is a weird one. I don't know how old he is because it doesn't really, like, he doesn't know, right? Where he's coming from. But Scar's
we know
youngest.
that he's been killing people for years, and that's it.
Yeah. But Scar's like 17. She's definitely younger, and it calls it out like how old she is at some point. And then Wraith is like somewhere in between like Skara, and then he's right on like with Cole and Riv. I think he's probably like around the same age.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 18, 19 maybe. But,
And I think we should remember that Half a King, it takes place over a full year.
yeah.
Yeah, because
It's a journey.
No, it's a
Pretty
journey.
shitty journey.
For Yarvi, yeah, he's not loving it. He's not loving it. And I do like the difference in the POV structures. Like, you mentioned it, right? Like, there's 1, then 2, then 3, basically following the number of books, right? 1 POV for the first book, 2 POVs, and they're different each book. And it's interesting because Joe does that. He does different POVs, but for the trilogies, we see the same POVs in each book. Here, he kind of, I don't know, like he high speeded it. Like basically, we see Yarvi's POV in the first book. We don't ever see his POV again. We see Thorn and Brand's in the second book. Never see the POVs after that. And then we have these 3 new final POVs. So, that kind of happens throughout his entire First Law series, where each trilogy we're with these characters. We see their POVs. But then for the following, books, we only see their characters from somebody else's POV. And we never touch their POV ever again. So I thought it's interesting. He just crammed all that into this one chapter. He's just like, I'm just going to mush it together.
Yeah, that's a good call out in the way that it happens. And I think in similar First Law fashion, though, like you have characters where you may have had a POV in one book, but then they end up being in like 7 of the other books, right? Like we only get Shiver's POV once. We only get Pasca's POV once, right? But they're in a whole bunch of books. And so that's like the same kind of thing he does here too, is like Yarvi's still very much a point. Like if you like Yarvi in the first book, not going anywhere. If you like Brandon Thorn, they're still around. Like it's not a completely different story. There's a through plot that they're all connected, which is cool.
And again, with the way that Joe handles POVs, is that we know that Yarvi will have motivations at the end of the first book, and then we can, without seeing his thoughts, we can kind of piece together what he's doing, even though we can't see, or we can't see exactly what he's thinking. And I think that, like you said, Josh, it kind of builds up the complexity from there. It starts out very simple, and by the end, you've got all of these characters' motivations that are all meshed together, and I think that it's bloody good. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
With the same like rating scale that you guys normally do, because you can't do like chapters in this one. But what would you give Half a King?
What would I give Half a King?
I think Half a King for me was probably the weakest of the 3. I'd probably give it a 5. I'd say it's average. This is the reason why it took me so long to get onto the trilogy in general. Is that I read the first one and I was like, I don't like it as much as any of Joe's other books. So I'll just kind of give up until you brought it up. But I'd say 5 for the first one. What about you, Jeff?
I'll give it a 5, but you have to remember we're doing it at a 9 finger, so 5 is higher than the average. Just so you know, buddy.
I mean, it's still Joe Abercrombie.
I'll give it a 5. I enjoyed the first book. I enjoyed it. I do think the other 2 are stronger, and I think that's because of the different. He's building on the POVs and everything. And maybe you said he did his entire trilogy in between Best Served Cold and the Heroes?
So I don't know if that's correct, but it was.
I think 2015 and the Great this and the Great Leveler trilogy was sort of coming out alternately.
Okay, because I don't know why I thought Half a King came out sometime earlier, like in between the original trilogy or something like that. I don't know why I thought that.
No, it was 2014, 15, and 16. Like bang, bang, bang.
Oh, okay.
So it was it was after Red Country.
Yeah, it was before Age of Madness. Yep.
Okay. So interesting. Well, 5 for me for the first book. Josh?
So it's funny, we got a trifecta. Because I feel the same way. Like Half a King is a 5 out of 9. I wrote that down, not just bullshitting. But there were chapters in there that were like strong, like maybe 7 or 8 chapters. Like I don't know if there was any like 9 out of 9 chapter for me. in that book. So George, it's kind of the same feeling, where that's his, like, as far as Joe, that was the book where I was like, that might be the weakest one, and so it's hard for people to get into it. But the whole of the series is still pretty damn enjoyable. So it's the same kind of thing that I tell people when they're like, "Hey, I just started reading Blade itself," and it's like, I don't know what's happening here. It's slow. Like, keep fucking going.
I
Like,
hate
just
that.
just go.
Maybe-
Like, I was like, when you get to the last third of that book, you're gonna thank me for continuing. And everybody that's actually read it, like, I got a couple coworkers, a couple buddies. My friend's wife is reading. Like, she's on the heroes now. She hasn't stopped. Every time she finishes one, she asks me for the next one. So, like, that's the same thing, right? Like, just push through, believe it. It's gonna be good. What do you think about book number 2, Half the World?
Yeah, Half the World, I'd definitely say is the strongest, like you said, Josh. I'd definitely give it an 8, not quite a 9. I like the whole here, the whole big journey, and we're
Yeah.
going to talk spoilers later. But there's a lot of the background that is, or the world building that's revealed in the second book, that kind of starts to piece together. I think it makes it a lot more interesting.
Right.
I'll give it a 7 and a knuckle just because I don't want to, be accused of just copying George. So 7 and a knuckle.
So
I think it's the better book so far. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I agree. I had feelings about giving it 7 and a knuckle or 8, and so I was like wavering between there. And I actually like scribbled over before we started. I put 8 over 7 and a knuckle. And it's my favorite. It's my favorite book. The stuff that happens, and I know we said this earlier, right? That like it's a Viking tale, but like and George, I think you mentioned like, yeah, there's not cursing, but there is slavery, right? So like, this
Yeah.
is like this is a full out like Viking, different clans, different city states, all sorts of shit, like influences, politics, like all the kind of stuff that you expect from Joe, like in this. And the first book, like you only scratch the surface of like what the world really is, but then half the world is literally like they go around half the world that they know, right? Like half the known world they end up, like having a journey around, and you see so much other shit. And so that one to me really stood out because it grew everything, right? It took like whatever your expectations were of what's happening in the first book and made it so much bigger. So 8 out of 9 for me on that one. And there were some definite 9 out of 9 chapters for me in that book. Like
Yeah.
that, of all Joe's work, like I can say like, oh damn, that's like one of my, that's one of my favorite chapters, and it's in this series in the First Law. We get into those when we get to spoilers.
What about the third book, George?
I've got to say, 1.5 of the POVs I really didn't like. I didn't like Rafe at all. I didn't enjoy his character. I didn't like reading what he had to say or what he did. I just didn't like him. that really ruined it for me. I'm not gonna lie. I still think it's stronger than Half a King because it has it's more expansive. There's more going on. I love Bright Yelling. I think he's an absolute fantastic villain. I think even though he ends up being a bit inconsequential, but But yeah, I'm gonna definitely give that one a 7 and a knuckle. It's close. The second and the third are close, and the first one is a lot weaker for me.
Well, I'll give it a 7 because it only makes sense for me. Because I do think it's a little weaker than half the world, but I still found it very enjoyable. I didn't hate Wraith. In the beginning, I was annoyed with this character. I was like, and then when he started, I was like, oh, okay, my boy's a pimp. He's a player. All right. And then, but we see progression in his character. He wasn't where he started. You could argue he's worse off than where he started.
Classic Joe.
Classic Joe, you little wily bastard. But yeah, I'll give it a 7 and a knuckle. I mean, no, 7 out of 9 fingers. Apologize. Josh?
So I'm with you on this one, Jeff. Like, I didn't dislike Wraith as much as you did, George. It's a 7 out of 9 for me. And there were some definite, like, really strong chapters. I don't know if there were any, like, 9 out of 9 full chapters, maybe 1 in this book. But I did feel that Half a War is Joe's most First Law book of the trilogy. Like
It is.
the stuff that happens, like the outcomes, the consequences, the different twists and stuff, like it is more like First Law in that book than any of the others. And that might also be because there's 3 POVs and you're bouncing back and forth. You've seen a whole bunch of other things. So it felt more like a First Law book than the first 2. I still enjoyed the second one more. Just from who's in it and what they do. But yeah, I think that it was a 7 out of 9 for me too. So like overall, you know, I was a 5, 8, 7, and you guys were up or down a little bit from that on each one. So like if you're averaging that out, we're like 6 and a knuckle or 7 out of 9 for the series. Like that's not
that's good.
You know, that's pretty damn good, right?
Yeah, so that's good.
When it comes down to what should I read next, I've finished all of Joe's First Law books. Like, give it a shot, people. That's all we're saying. Like, if you like Joe as an author, check it out.
Yeah. If you're waiting for the Devils and you've read all the rest of the First Law several times, like we have, this is definitely something to fill the gap in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like we said, it's YA, but it's like kind of not. It doesn't feel so YA.
You know what I just thought about? This is for like I'm older than you guys, but you're closer to me than. This is like a 1980s PG-13, right? Like PG-13 now. PG-13 now is not like what it was.
Yeah.
So if you're old enough, listeners, I'm dating myself on this one, but if you're old enough to understand that, like, go watch The Sandlot, go watch Goonies, go watch Big Trouble in Little China, something like that. You'll understand what a 1980s PG-13 is.
Yeah, a 1980s PG-13, they are fucking.
Yeah. Full on nudity. It's fine.
Balls in your face and everything.
Right.
Besides the Shattered Sea, I know we also want to talk about the Devil's sample chapters, as well as what are other authors that somebody we would see normally recommended for fans of Joe Abercrombie. So we can start off either or.
Yeah.
So I haven't read the Devil's chapters yet. If you guys want to, I can. If you haven't either.
I haven't either.
So we might just have to skip that, Josh, I'm afraid.
No, it's fine. I don't think we need to go into any of the like details of it, but I will just say this: like, I've read the 3 chapters, the sample chapters that are out for the Devils, and I'm like the Tyrone Bigums meme, like, "Hey man, you got any more?" Like the crack, you know, like. So the characters in there, like, just from the first 3 chapters, they're hilarious. They're all the things that you would expect from First Law. There's very similar parallels that you see between, like, the things you liked about Casca, you will see in the Devils. The things you liked about, you know, some certain characters, like, there's going to be, you know, parallels in the Devils. And it's just a new setting, new things, different stuff happening. But I'm like, you know, what is it, March of 25 or May of 25? One of the M months of 25. Can't wait.
Oh, snaps. Oh, snaps.
So, I really can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
It's so, yeah, like, it's got the taste buds, you know.
Got
the saliva
tingling.
for this one. Yeah. As far as other authors, like, I think I've posted probably the same message more than any other single post on Reddit. But it's like, hey, what else should I read? And so I used to have one where it's just copied and paste and I just dump it in. And there's different reasons for these, right? And so I know you guys have read some of these and maybe not the others. But I think Glenn Cook and the Black Company, like, if you like the gritty grim darkness, I think the Black Company by Glenn Cook is a really good one. It's kind of like George and I had an argument over who started Grimdark, whether it was Warhammer or Glenn Cook, but it was basically the same year. So they're both equally, you know, responsible, but it's really cool. And it's like down ground level. Like, if you like the heroes, you would really like Black Company. The another one that I have is the Scott Lynch Gentlemen Bastards, and that's not because I've read it. That's because everybody I've ever seen says, like, Gentlemen Bastards is really good, so I have them. I just got the first one today, so that's going to be in my next month or so, I'm going to read through those and see what they are. But I've only heard good things, and I know George, you said you really like those, right?
I like it. I like the way he's very similar to Joe in some ways, but then very opposite in others. Like the world building is just full on in your face, and there's so much food in those books that is so well described. It makes me hungry every single time I read those books. I swear to God.
Nice. Beats and leaks like Martin.
Yeah, not beat to leak. Lots of very fancy cuisine.
Yeah.
What's next on your list?
What are some of the? So on my list, the next one, like if you want to go sci-fi and you want to get out of the fantasy side, right? Stay within speculative fiction, but sci-fi. I think the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey is awesome, and it has like it's got 9 books and then a collection of short stories. But like the first 3 books are kind of their own trilogy arc. The second 3 are their own trilogy arc in the same way that Joe has kind of done the setup so far. But I will say that Amos Burton from The Expanse is the single most first law character I've ever read in anything not written by Joe. Like you could dump that dude in the circle of the world and he would just roll with the churn. Like he is.
Yeah, he would, wouldn't he? He would. Oh, like, I'm in a fantasy universe. Oh well, that's just life.
And it's funny enough, I think that like that character that plays him in the show, Wes Chatham, would be the perfect friendly. Like he would be the perfect friendly for a Best Served Cold movie as well.
For who?
Friendly.
No. Who's the actor?
His name is Wes Chatham.
Wes Chatham.
Have you seen the show, The Expanse?
No.
Oh,
it's pretty good. It's fairly faithful.
I've heard great things about The Expanse. I need to watch it. I need to read it. I need to read the series that you mentioned. I'm not as widely read in fantasy as I'd like to be. Working on that. I did read another. Oh, I think I've seen this guy. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
He definitely gives me friendly vibes.
Mm-hmm. I could see him counting some dice. Mm-hmm. Yep.
If I were going to recommend any series at all, if you love the humor, it's not dark at all. But Terry Pratchett is a clear. Is it? There's hundreds. I think he literally wrote over 100 books in Discworld. There's no set start order. You just read it, whichever ones you want. It's fine. But the comedy is 100%. Joe is 100% inspired by Terry Pratchett. There's no way that he isn't. Just the odd Britishisms and the strange characters with funny accents and stuff like that. That is straight up. Yep. That's exactly the same. Terry Pratchett, I'll recommend to absolutely anybody.
It's right out of Discworld. It's like absurdism, right, is the kind of genre that he's in with it. Yeah. But it's like
it's absurd satire.
Right. If you laugh at Monty Python,
yeah, but it's more intelligent than Monty Python, I think. It's definitely there are jokes in Terry Pratchett that you will not get the first time because you're like, okay, it's sort of like a weird metaphor, and then something happens, you're like, oh, okay, I get that now.
There it is. Yeah, a couple of the other authors that I had on here, like John Gwynne. He does the Faithful and the Fallen series, and then the sequel series that's Blood and Bone, and then his newest one is the Bloodsworn trilogy. John Gwynne is like, from an action standpoint, if you really like the fighting and the action of Joe, John Gwynne would be a good one. But I don't think he's as strong as character building, and I like the John Gwynne books, but it's not ever gonna like hold a candle to Joe for me.
No.
But it's still like, the action is pretty badass, and it's really relentlessly paced. So when you get into it, like, there's no breaks in his books; they just go, which is pretty cool. And then Larry McMurtry, Lonesome Dove, like Joe has said that himself, that he drew inspiration from there. And I think if you read Lonesome Dove, like, it's slow at first, and you're like trying to figure out what you get into, and then it turns out to be like one of the best character written stories like ever. Like, it's badass.
Literally Gus next on my list though for that one.
Yeah. Gus, the character Gus, is a freaking literary treasure. He's awesome. Like, You're gonna love it. The only other person I put on there is Nicholas Ames. That I really like Nicholas Ames' Kings of the Wild and Bloody Rose. It's way more like D&D, like Dungeons and Dragons kind of sense, but it's funny and there's actions and there's that kind of stuff. It's a different vibe. It's much more lighthearted. It's not grimdark, but I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I got a recommendation for it because of liking Joe. So I'd throw that one out there too.
Nice. That's a good list of authors right there. Authors and
Yeah,
series.
it takes you a little while to queue through all that if you
Yeah.
try and go after it. So.
It'll keep them busy and happy and satiated until, the Devils comes out.
Right.
Right.
And then eventually, our next First Law books.
Yeah, and then you can just reread them.
One day, I can't wait.
Yep.
Oh God, I hope Joe. I hate to say this, right? It sounds really selfish, but I hope he doesn't make it big in TV because I want more First Law books.
Yeah, don't want to pull the Martin. God damn it!
I'm just
Don't stop writing it.
No boy. George, do you want to add anything to that?
I really struggle with connecting authors together through these themes. Like Joe is, in my opinion, one of the best, definitely the best fantasy author ever. He blows everyone else out of the water in terms of the characters, not necessarily the world. Even the world building is good. It's very, very good, even though it's very minimal, like you say, because it's through the eyes of the characters. But it is really hard to find recommendations for Joe. Like I said, Terry Pratchett is the only one that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
What about you, Jeff? Do you have any ideas?
Nope. Like I said, not as widely read in fantasy, so I'm not gonna bother trying to give out names of authors that I don't even really know. I did read there's one series earlier this year, from the recommendation of one of our other special guests, Serpent of Talents. R. Scott Baker's The Second Apocalypse. You guys familiar with that?
Okay.
No.
I've heard of it, but not read it. So
You're good. The man needs an editor, and he needs an editor's editor. I don't. You know what? I'm not even gonna get started on this goddamn series because I'm just.
Oh, it sounds like something I want to read.
it's
I'm
like
so
the,
edgy
the
and so
shitty,
dark. Shut the fuck up. Oh, I'm sorry.
the
Sorry.
shitty horror movies where
Look,
you read it just to see how bad.
No. Here's the thing. It's not a bad series. It's not. It's good. It's good. I just can't even put my thoughts together about it because I would just go on like a 45-minute tangent just on one character alone that I don't even want to talk about right now. Him and his little shitbag son. Fuck him.
We'll get on to that when we finish the First Law and Joe hasn't written any more books. We'll start a new podcast about that.
Oh God!
I have just thought it is very fucking dark, but at the same time it's a little bit more. I'd definitely say for the first trilogy is the Red Rising series. I think the last book is coming out next year. I think the first trilogy is one POV. It's very, very fucking dark and it's very gory and very over the top when it comes to that kind of thing. But it is essentially YA up to the end of that. The second trilogy, I say trilogy, quadrilogy, it'll be when it's finished, but it's just fantastic space opera. And it's one. I think there's 4 POVs for the second section of the books, or 5, yeah. But definitely have a look at those if you like Joe. It's a little bit more simplistic, a bit on the nose, but very good.
It is one that's in my TBR. I just don't own any of them yet, so I'll get to that one eventually as well.
That's another one where the audiobook narrator is fantastic as well.
Nice.
You could be like us normal people, George, and read.
Nah.
Nah.
I'll tell you what. The main reason why I stopped reading is because my first flat that I had when I was like 21 flooded, and I lost all my books, most of them. And out of the fear of it happening again, I was just like, no, that's it. I mean, everything's digital now.
George has got some trauma. Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so we are about to enter spoiler reviews of the Shattered Sea trilogy. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not read, this is your moment to get the fuck out now. We will give you 30 seconds to hit escape on this app.
Too much.
It's too much.
It's way too much. It's too much. That's it. It's time. All right.
Anyway, why did someone get pregnant by Wraith?
Oh god! So we're not starting with that. We're not starting with that. I want to start off with a really basic one. I didn't look up anything about this. When did you figure out that this was the post-apocalyptic Scandinavia?
What?
So it is literally a 1-to-1 of the Baltic Sea. Like the places all line up. There's city, like Stockholm is Stockholm. Skeckenhaus is Copenhagen. Yeah. The first of cities is Istanbul, which is interesting because Istanbul literally means the city.
So I like that. I like that it might be today, right now, that Jeff is getting that.
It is definitely right now.
Hey, what the fuck?
It's Scandinavia, Jeff.
Yeah. So like this is
clearly far though from Scandinavia. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but you got to go down the Denied River and the Duniper River, which is the Divine River, and like
they go down the Dnieper, and that Ekrev or whatever it's called is Kiev, which is interesting because that's actually the way that the Vikings went down originally. The Rus were descended from Vikings.
Yeah. And what do we got? We got Leningrad, right? It's Stalingrad, right?
Yeah.
On the coast there. And then you have Rostock, right? Which is
wait.
Did you not get that?
No, because I wasn't looking at the fuck.
I know. Let me just put them. Let me put the link in.
That map that has like the red and blue. You got that?
I can't even see this.
Yeah, dude.
It's too small. Hold on. Can I make this bigger?
You should be able to click on it.
If you open in browser.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's awesome. I'm glad that happened.
It's fucking great. That is brilliant.
Yeah. So,
yo,
listeners, if you could see Jeff's face here. Yeah, that is
fucking
no way. Is this confirmed?
Yeah.
It's pretty much confirmed, yeah.
That is so fucking funny.
Listeners, you can't see this, but Jeff he's comparing the two maps and he does not believe it.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, what the fuck? What the fuck?
So this is somewhere in the future of our world.
Yeah.
Just,
right, wait, hold on.
1,000 years ahead.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
How did you not get it when they went to Stockholm and they was like, and he saw this elf lady with like in a big picture and she's smiling? It's like, oh yeah, that's clearly just like a billboard.
Yeah. The elf bangles are watches.
Yeah.
The fucking the staff, right? The
it's just a big gun.
Or guns. It's just the gun.
They're just guns. That's it. Because
guns.
They didn't say anything like he had to pull a finger. He said they twisted, and they have to chant.
So we don't know. We don't know what the technology was like when the world ended.
Right.
That's the thing.
Okay, that's true. So it's basically, oh my fucking god, this is another second apocalypse. Fucking Christ.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Sorry.
Oh.
So I didn't catch it at all in the first book. There's some people that say they did because when the Shens, right, when they stop where the Shens are and they were afraid they're going to get eaten by the cannibals, and Yarvi goes in because Yarvi's a very cunning dude. He's very Glotka, right? Like Yarvi is smart. He knows all this shit. Like he can talk his way through most anything, really. But he goes in there and he starts talking the Shen's language, and somebody pointed it out on Reddit. She's got a fucking like hard drive, like a computer hard drive with like the circuitry of the computer hanging from her neck. They're like, yeah, that's when I figured it out. I'm like, nope, missed that one. I totally missed that one.
I don't even
But
know.
when it got when it got to the second book and they had like the elf bangles where they were talking about the elf bangles and it was like giving off the light and it had the gears. I'm like, that's a fucking watch, bro. And then it got to where it got to the guns, right? And where what's her name? What's her name? Skiva was used the gun to Skiffer, whatever. She used the guns to kill all those the horse riders on the plains. I'm like, oh shit! Like she just popped out an AK and wiped them all down. Or no, she had a pistol at that point, right? She just whips out. Bang, bang, bang. What the fuck?
All right, I will say this. In order to make sure that, like, I'm not saying I skimmed the book, but I read. I didn't pay attention to details, right? And I could have sworn that these elf joints, these things, like the elf bangles, I didn't even like. I just know that they went on your wrist. I didn't catch the light you said in the gears.
It was the glowing that got me. It's like sometimes it glows in this color, and then sometimes it's like, is this just a Fitbit?
It's just a Fitbit.
It's just a Fitbit.
Yeah, but then like Mother Scare, right, from Vansterland, she had like just watches all down her arm. She had like a whole bunch of them.
Yeah,
it was just but yeah, like so as Jeff comes to grips with that, right, like the whole story is starting off where we have Yarvi and he has a crippled hand, right? Like he was born with a deformed hand, so he was never going to be like in line to be king. His older brother is the king. His older brother's the like crown prince or whatever. And this is straight up a Viking story because it's like the whole Scandinavian region got thrown back to Viking times.
And it isn't just the Scandinavians either. It's like the horse people are very clearly based on the Mongolians as well, which is interesting for the steppe. You know, it makes sense that people would go back to their roots when they've denied all of the information.
Yep, exactly. And so it's cool because like a big part of the whole story is the ministry, right? And the advisors to the different kings. Like they're the ones pulling all the strings behind the scenes, right? And they are the ones that know all the shit. They have the books, they found the stuff, they've learned how to read. And so like they've got an understanding of what's really going on, and they just keep it in. Like this apocalypse that happened was when the elves, aka modern day humans, like fucked around, had a nuclear war and destroyed God, quote unquote, broke him into a whole bunch of pieces, right? And so,
well, just before we move on there, I wanted to find a connection because they say he split God into 409 pieces. I thought 409 might have something to do with nuclear science in some way. I can't find any connection at all. So I think Joe just made that up.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, the different gods, right? Like the she who brings the wind to the sails or whatever is like one of the smaller gods, and then you have like, you know,
he who turns the dice.
He who turns the dice, yes. But then you have like the main gods are like Mother War and Father Peace, like Mother Earth and Father Sea. And so
I do like how the gender roles are kind of reversed there as well. So usually you'd have the quote unquote more powerful of the duology as the male and the other way around. So it's like Father Earth and Mother Sea, where the sea is the violent one, and you got Mother Sun and Father Moon, where the sun is the, you know, obviously. I did enjoy that little detail.
Definitely. And remember when we did our what kind of standalones would you like to see next from Joe? And I was like, I want a pirate themed one. I want like an ocean theme. Like this is actually pretty close. Like he could do it because a lot of this is spent on ships, right? Like Yarvi spends a whole lot of time being a slave rowing on a ship because his uncle's a piece of shit, kills his dad, and his brother takes over the kingdom, sells him into slavery. And so the whole first book is like Yarvi going around trying to figure a way out. And I did think that like one of the cooler reveals that I didn't see coming was that the character Nothing, right, ends up being his uncle Uthil, Uthil is essentially like, if you're going to draw comparisons to First Law, Uthil is like Logan's fighting ability without his just like gonna go cracked and fucking kill everybody around him, even on his own side type thing. Like he's like the untouchable swordsman type thing.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
I did enjoy that twist. You know, sorry, Jeff.
No, I was gonna say, I did enjoy the twist, and I was gonna say, I think to me his comparison in the first law, which pains me to say it, is Wirren. Consider the ending for him and Wirren very similar.
Yep.
A stone, or a spear, or whatever the fuck. You know.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's much more weird and good call.
Yeah, and nothing. And Uther had been through so much that he's a little cracked in the head, and Wirren is a cracked nut.
And the way that he talks about food at the end as well, it's like, I have a sausage that I have to get back to.
Yeah, and steel is the answer. It's like it's very Wirren-esque to me. I will say, I don't want to interrupt your flow. I found the Shend lady you're talking about with the fucking necklace thing. It's an elf tablet, green card studded with black jewels. Motherfucker, is that a motherboard? Is that like a circuit board?
Yeah, it is a circuit board.
Mother.
Exactly. So one of the things that's cool is page 161.
This is ridiculous.
The page 161 of Half a King, there's also some like call outs to First Law in there where they're looking at the constellations, right? They're on the boat or whatever, or maybe they've escaped at this point. Basically, they get out of slavery. So once they get out of slavery and they're running, it's like a mad chase to get away from Shadix-Shiram, right? Who's their slave owner pirate ship lady, who's like black female Kafka. Kind of like a little bit. She's like a little bit like that.
Black female Kafka.
But so the constellations that they call out, there's the Bald Weaver, Stranger Come Knocking, the Eater of Dreams, right?
Yes.
The Crooked Way, though, I didn't know which one the Crooked Way was. Like, what's the Crooked Way? Is that just one that he threw in there that isn't really a call out?
Yeah, I think he just threw that in there. I don't know what the Crooked Way is.
I mean, crooked could be Glockter, but the way is a bit.
Yeah, maybe. If
he would have put the Crippled Way, I would have been like, yeah, that's Glockter.
Yeah. One of the things that stuck out to me too, Joe's style of like Yarvi's journey coming full circle kind of thing. Like he just comes right back to where he was. So he was gonna be a minister, and then all of a sudden his dad and his brother are dead. So now he's the king, and he gets betrayed by his uncle. And nope, he comes back around and he becomes the minister that he was supposed to be at the end. And the way he took out Mother Gundring, like he goes in, he's having the little conversation with her. He's like, yeah, so kind of had some time to think about shit, and bye, bitch. Like, poisons her, and like that was pretty cool. Like that little twist at the end, I was like, oh damn, Yarvi's got fangs. Like he came through it.
I gotta say for the end of the first book, I liked the twist because when I was first reading that, I was like, oh yeah, it's this typical revenge story. He's gonna come back and he's gonna kill his uncle and he's gonna be the king, and okay, whatever. Whatever. Yeah. The twist is good. I like the fact that Isrian did betray him, or what it was, didn't like him very much. It was involved, but his mother wasn't, even though his mother was very cold and not very motherly. But then it turns out that she was completely unaware, and she does support him at the end. I like that. I really like that as a character point.
I will say, I think Isrian in the beginning, when they were like betrothed for like half a day, she did say, you don't know my father the way you think you do. Remember? And she looked worried. I think maybe at the time she didn't want Yarvi to get killed. But then obviously after her dad dies, then, whatever the case may be.
There's definitely a parallel here. Joe absolutely loves writing stories with banks because his mother just invents paper money and basically banking as a whole. It was like, okay, that's what you do.
Did you guys feel that his mom, Yarvi's mom, shit, what's her name? I'm drawing a blank right now.
I've completely
Laithlin. Yeah. Did you feel that she was kind of like a Finry type of character? She felt like she was very competent, knew what she was. Finry, like Finry Dan Brock.
Oh.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Like the kind of person that makes the hard decisions.
Right. And like she's generally on point with what she's doing, and then people like stop listening to her sometimes and it goes fucking crazy. Like I felt that way. When we get into Half a World, the like I said earlier, like those new POVs, Thorn and Brand, that new flavor, we don't lose Yarvi. Like Yarvi is still the minister of Thorlby, right? The minister of Getland. The headquarters is in Thorby, and then Brand and Thorn were both a bit younger, right? They were like younger teenagers, maybe 11, 12, 13, something like that during the first book, but now they're like 15, 16, 17 in that range, and they're going for their warrior trials. And the way that starts off, like Thorn is kind of Thorn's like teenage Jarv, like Shevadia and from the
Shavidia and what's the name?
Oh,
Javra.
Javra, yeah, Javra, yeah. But she's like straight up a badass warrior, right? But she doesn't really control her anger all that well. And then Brand is the guy that this big hulking dude, but he's also very, very pacifistic. Like he doesn't want to hurt people. He thought he did, but he doesn't. And he's a good guy. And I think that like their relationship, the way it like comes in Half the World, is kind of funny because like he saved her from getting killed because of her training mistake in the very first chapter of Half a World, where she accidentally killed a dude because really their fucking weapons master is a piece of shit. But that whole thing, like it comes through, and I love when they actually get to, like, we're skipping ahead a little bit, when they get to Istanbul, the first of the cities, right? And he's picking out a bracelet for his sister, and she gets jealous and thinks that it's somebody else and like starts treating him like shit. like yeah, that is a very typical like teenage kind of like, it's not for me, kind of behavior.
Yeah.
We say it a lot on the podcast, but it's one of those things that could have just been avoided with like a 30-second conversation.
Yeah,
exactly. Like just
communication is key.
Well, and the whole time, like going back and forth, when you're in each one of their heads, it's like, well, what if she likes me? What if he likes me? What if she doesn't? What do I say? And like, how many fucking times does that happen every single day in the world? Like, that's really what's going on. Is like, just say it, shoot your shot. And neither one of them did. And it took the whole damn book for them to figure it out. But once they did, then, they got together and things were good. I think one of the chapters in that book, like I said, like some of the 9 out of 9 chapters, the man who fought a ship, that chapter was pretty fucking badass, where between the two rivers, right, between the Divine River and the Dnieper River,
when they're caught in the ship over the mountains,
Divine,
they got to carry the ship, and they get up there, right, and then the rope breaks. They're all carrying the ship, and they're having to lower it down, going the other way down the mountain, right, and little baby Cole is out there like greasing the axles to try and get it, and he's going to get smashed, and Bran just like stands sideways on the tree and holds the rope over his back and like stops the ship from going, and everybody's like,
that is badass.
He's like, that's fucking crazy. Like he held the ship up, and they all get, like he gets his little hero moment from that. I thought that was a really cool one.
I do like that this is sort of like a very heroic and selfless moment that isn't anything to do with violence.
Right.
And it's very rare for Joe.
Right. Yeah. I did think too, there was a Pulp Fiction moment in Half the World, which was kind of cool, where like they're going to meet with the Empress of the first city because they need allies, right? The whole reason for the journey is they got to go get allies because the grandfather and the High King within the Baltic Sea area, the Shattered Sea, is trying to take them out, right? Yeah. The grandmother Wexen and the High King are trying to take out Yarvi's family because his mom is, this entrepreneuring woman who's going to take over, basically. And so they're going to get the allies, and like the gift that they're bringing is one of these elf bangles, one of these watches, but it's not just like a dead one. This one's still got juice in it, and so it's glowing. And when they're revealing like, we've got something special, and they open up the box and like the light comes out, but you don't see what it is, and then they close the box. It's like very Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Very true.
That was cool.
I do like that, the fact that there's this MacGuffin, and It actually ends up being reasonably important, which a lot of the time they don't, do they? In fantasy, especially.
Yeah. And they did have like Thorne's growth in the book, right? Like she starts off, she just wants to be a warrior because her dad was a warrior and he was a big famous warrior who was killed by Grom Gilgorm, who's the king of Vansterland, which is one of their enemies, right? So her whole thing is like, I'm gonna kill that fucker someday, right? And she ends up getting trained by Skiffer, where she turns into like the Terminator. Like she becomes Javra, where like you might underestimate her because she's a woman, and she just kicks the shit out of every single person that she fights. And it's not from brute strength; she's just faster and more vicious. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then the end of the book, when you get into where the whole myth of Grom or Gorm, whichever ROOR, yeah, is that like I was, Mother War breathed on me in my crib. No man can kill me. It's prophesied that no man can kill me or whatever. And it's like, oh, I am no man, kind of like Lord of the Rings kind of throwback. And she fights him, and so in typical Joe fashion, it doesn't go the way that the readers would expect. You think that he's going to break her sword, kill her, and add it to his thing. And then because Isrian, right, Yarvi's
Ex-wife,
bride from ex-wife, ex-betrothed from the first one, is now his advisor, and she's hell-bent on revenge. She's screaming at Grom to kill her, and he's like, you know what? I've had enough of your lip. I'm not going to do that just because you're telling me to do it. And so, like, Thorne actually survives. And so you get this, you're like, oh man, Thorne's going to kill him. Nope. Not so fast. Oh man, he's going to kill Thorne. Not so fast again. Like, all right, Joe, quit playing with my fucking emotions, buddy. And he's back and forth. But I thought, like, the way that ended, and then you have Brand, like, turning down Yarvi for the position to be with him on the ship. He's like, nah, I'm going to stay, and I'm going to try and stand in the light and do good. I thought that was really cool. Like, for Brand's full circle, like, he actually completed what he was trying to do, right? Like, got his own self-confidence to stand on his own 2 feet and not have to just fit in with what was going on.
Yeah. What I wanted to talk about in the second book was the fact that it was Yarvi that was kind of poisoning Uthil for the so he wouldn't fight Grom Gilgorm. Yarvi was like, Uthil would have lost when he's talking to Brand about this. And I'm like, well, how do you know that for sure? Like, as far as we know, Uthil and Gorm are like, they're on the same level. As far as we know.
Yeah.
And so Yarvi, I mean, I guess what's the reasoning there? It's been a few days. Hold on. The reasoning was it gives them an excuse to kind of, together. So, like, Queen Laithlin can, I guess, negotiate an alliance, which is something Uthil probably never would have done, but which is what Yarvi needs to have done. Because Yarvi swore a sun oath and a moon oath to be revenged on his father's killers and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's Yarvi's manipulating everything because he knows if his uncle is the one that fights him, like, there can be no alliance between Getland and Vansterland, and they need that, or else they're gonna lose to the High King down in Skeckenhouse, right, in Coconut. Yutman, because they've got, and this is funny too, the Lowlanders and the Inglings, the Inglins. Did you guys, so now that you know this, Jeff, do you think those are English? Like, are they coming from the other island? The Inglings?
Yeah,
that's
Inglings,
what
yeah.
And then the Lowlanders, I'm just guessing, are like the Dutch and like
the Netherlands,
like
the Dutch.
Yeah.
I think the Shens are the Germans, and it's typical that the Germans start eating people first.
Right. Visigoths type thing. Yeah. And then, so for half a war, right, when we get into the end, that book starts off like full tilt. It's like first chapter, you get the Princess Skara is sitting around with her grandfather, and she's being a petulant teenager, and he's Trovenland, which is like the very southern edge of Sweden, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Trovenland is like south of Getland. And then Bright Ealing, George's boy, comes in, and he is basically, he's like a nihilist.
He's a nihilist.
He's a nihilist. I don't believe in anything.
He's a joyful bloody nine.
Yeah, like he's not a weird psychopath about it. He's just a straight up cold-blooded sociopath about it. Like, and he'll just kill everybody. He doesn't care.
Yeah, I love his mannerisms and the way he's just like, well, you know, that's just how it is. That's life, death. You know, oh well.
Oh, shut
doesn't seem to be. Yep. Oh, stabbed you. Oops.
Whoopsies.
Yeah,
I love the little when he has a realization just before he dies, where he's like, "Oh, I figured something out." He does like a little jig. It's just like, what the fuck? This is so weird.
He's like, "Oh, you tricked me." He's like, "Ah, you got it."
Yeah, you got me.
Like, yeah, his mannerisms, like he's a good like he's one of those creepy villains where it's like you feel on edge when he's in the room because you really don't know, like, this could go any fucking direction. Like, this could really get wild here, which I thought was really cool. The POVs, like Wraith's POV, like you said, you didn't like him as much. It was hard to get into. I feel like Wraith is teenage Downside from Age of Madness, and then he like doesn't grow into adult Downside. Like, he's like, maybe I shouldn't do the things that I'm doing. Maybe I'm not like. I don't
Maybe outright murdering everyone I meet is not a good idea.
Right. And, you know, he's been treated him and his brother have been treated pretty shitty by Grom, for sure. But also, he's a bit of a prick. Like, his brother's not that big of a prick. So,
I didn't like his brother. I didn't like Raki at all. I just like getting it to do bad things. I don't like it. Don't poison it. What the fuck? Oh, dear.
Oh, yeah, trying to get him to poison Scarra. Like,
yeah. I get the plan. And Mother Scare is such a bitch as well. I love how she never gets her come up, and she's just like there at the end, like, "Yep, I'm still here."
Yeah, Mother Scare was a funny one, and Yarvi's little like banter back and forth with her. Cole, I thought Cole's character was like Cole. I don't know if it's true or not, if this is just me, but he seemed like kind of like Temple a little bit. Like, that's the parallel that I would draw. But it's not like a 1-for-1 type thing. But he's very similar to Temple, I feel.
He's definitely he's very empathetic. He feels a lot of people's feelings. I like the fact that this is what Joe does as well. Like you said, the characters sort of are present in the early ones. They're just not very important. So Cole is the son of the son of the guy that Yarvi fucked over in the first book, right? With the captain. And then takes him on board, brings him with on the journey to the first cities, and now he's a POV, and I really like that because he's already got quite a lot of background when we start reading about him.
Yeah, exactly. In the same way that like Thorn was watching when Yarvi was doing the duel, when he called in his mom's like shield. Thorn was the little girl with the dark hair watching in the crowd that he saw and made eye contact with.
Who was Brand in the first book?
I don't know if it actually called him out or not, but it was like there were children around. And so I don't know if Brand was like clearly called out in the first book or not.
Okay, because I know
thought
Wraith
that it was.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Wraith was, because he was the sword bearer, the blonde little sword bearer, right? He got down and like held the sword up for Grom
in the second book, or even
the first.
And the first, I think so.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the other characters that stuck out to me that I really enjoyed was Blue Jenner in the third book. Well, he was in the second book too. He was in the second book because they met when they were crossing over the high places, when they were coming back from Istanbul. Yeah, and Blue Jenner is like very Jonas Clover to me.
With a little bit more honor. I love that. The whole, this guy's definitely going to fucking betray me or something, like straight away, and he just never does. He's just so wholesome.
He's a good guy.
I think the thing, so the big reveal, right? The big spoiler of the whole thing is that like this whole entire war was all Yarvi.
Yep.
The whole way through and through. Like, he caused it all. He was the spy giving Bright Yilling the information to keep influencing things to get it to go. And the fact that Yarvi did that and Bran died, you Yarvi, man, that
fuck you,
sucks.
Yavi.
Like, because Bran
That's
was
so
really
bad.
like Bran was a good dude. Like he was just a good dude. He was always trying to do good. And Yarvi was so hell bent on his sun oath and moon oath and all that to be avenged, like Jeff said earlier, on his father's killers. And really, it turned from that into he just wanted to be grandfather Yarvi and take over the world. And so I thought it was awesome that
It's
Skara
interesting
got
to
that
think that Brand.
information.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's interesting to think that Brand wouldn't have died if he had taken Yavi's offer, though. If it,
That's also
so,
true.
if the whole plan would have come together and nobody important would have died.
Yeah, that is true. And the fact that Skara gets the info from Bright Yelling before he dies and gets all the like little notes in the note patch, and so when Yarvi came in trying to swing his dick and like, oh, I'm taking over, I'm the one in charge. She's like, actually, there is only one vote, and it's mine. And he's like, no one will believe you. He's like, oh yeah, your mom's not gonna believe you. The weapons master's not gonna believe you. Thorne's not gonna believe it. Like Thorne's not gonna believe this about you. What do you think Thorne's gonna do? And we all know what Thorne was gonna do. She would murder the fuck out of Yarvi, like no question. Just walk in and gut him. So he's trapped now, and we're like, yeah, dude, you got what you wanted. You got your revenge. You're the grandfather of the Shattered Sea. Now you're the highest minister in the land, but also you're kind of neutered because if you ever do anything against Skara, then she's gonna out you and like it'll just end badly, which is kind of cool. I like the turnabout against Yarvi on that one.
That is definitely. I love the fact that Yavi just turns into bias.
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly. Yeah. He
Well,
turns into bias.
He turns into what Glock has always, always been too.
Exactly.
Yep.
He's the weaver
Little,
now.
little mix of both.
Yeah.
So I love the siege in the third book. I love the fact that it's not super detailed, but they attempt several things. It's very clear that this is, if they don't find whatever they're looking for in Stockholm, then they're gonna lose, and that's it, because this is just an overwhelming force. And then when they do get back, they just fucking light them up with machine guns. And it's just
just light
what
them
the
up.
fuck?
See, that's the thing. So like I remember when I was reading the siege, and then that battle, and then Cole is like he's helping Scarecrow like reloading, whatever. Like I remember seeing the word
Grenade
like
launchers.
Well,
Oh, they have grenade launchers as well.
Yeah, that's what it is, because it's the drum. It's like the big drum of the like mortar rounds, and she's not shooting that. She's like launching them out, and it's exploding and blasting people. Yeah.
Oh, because like when I see the word drum and like I know that's in the context of weapons, I know what that is. So it's grenade launchers and stuff.
But then they do have like shotguns, rifles, AR, like there's all those, because they go on their little trip to Stockholm, and that's where they have to take the anti-radiation pills, and then everybody else that didn't take it, that was rowing the boat, they end up dying, but the 6 of them or whatever it was that have the pills are okay. And
which is
the
another
whole,
parallel to the first law with the whole magic radiation thing.
exactly.
Right.
Even though it is literally just radiation.
Yeah. That is funny.
I did like that, what you were saying about the siege too, and the battle POV change when that's all happening from Skara to Wraith was awesome too, because it's like Skara up, like seeing everything out in front of her from the top of the battlements, and then it goes to Wraith, and he's like right down in the shit. That was a cool like change there. And one of the things that stuck out to me, like one of my favorite quotes of this was, it's page 120 in Half a War. Prince Varislav, who is the crazy dude that skins people from
Kaliev.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Kaliev. Yep. It's traditional for the farmer and the butcher to divide the meat without seeking the opinion of the pigs. So like they're talking and they're trying to figure out like, hey, what's the alliance? What's the right price for this? And then there's some other guys that are chattering on the side, and he's just like, yeah, this is an A and B conversation. Shut the fuck up. Like you've got nothing to do here. That was really cool.
That was good. I remember that.
And I love how was that the one in half a world or half a war.
Half a war.
That was enough. Yeah, I do like that. Cole just stands up and says says the same thing back to him, and he like pisses him off so much, and Thor smacks him and brings him out. And it's like, well done.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He's basically like got the ministers out of the conversation because it's still Isrin trying to like influence, right?
Right.
And he realized that he had to pull her off the table for Laithland to have a real one-on-one conversation with Varislav and get what they needed done, which was cool.
I do like the fact that Isrian does keep turning up and then just completely failing at what she wants to do over and over.
Yeah, she swore an oath too. Didn't do much for her apparently.
No. The oaths only matter if you're the protagonist.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All in all, though, I mean, like the way that it ends up, the twist that it has, and all that, I'm excited for, like when the kids start reading these and they're like, "Oh my God, did you know what happened?" We're like, yeah. And when you get a little bit older, we can tap you into the real shit, and then you can see what it's all about.
This is a little taste.
When you get a little older, we could talk about the birds and the bees and Skara and Wraith.
All of that. But I mean, like the trilogy as a whole, like we said, is like around 1,000 pages. It doesn't take that long to read,
Right?
But I think it's well worth it for anybody that is is a fan of Joe, because it's still like quality Joe work. And it also makes me really, really confident that the Devils is going to be badass, because he's not a one-trick pony. You know what I mean? Like, he wrote a whole nother trilogy that's like, man, I really like this too. So bring on whatever you want to do, bro. We said that one of the last times I was on talking was, if he never makes any other First Law books again, I will be very, very sad. But also, write whatever you want, because I'm going to buy that book too.
Very true.
Yeah, I'd much rather Joe write what he wants than write First Law and not be into it and it not be as good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I was kind of. Do you guys have any other thoughts on it?
No,
No.
I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna reread the trilogy at some time with a very, very much closer eye than instead of trying to speed read. So I'm gonna pick up on every goddamn thing about this post-apocalyptic fucking thing. Jesus Christ! You're kidding me, man.
Yeah,
I can't believe you didn't pick that up. That's so funny. And you didn't accidentally stumble on it when you're like looking for it as well.
What do you mean?
Well, I think I kind of cottoned on to what was happening with the circuit board and the guns, and then I was like, I don't actually have like a physical map. I'll just look it up, and that was the first map that I found, and I was like, oh fuck, yeah.
I wasn't familiar with that stuff, and then like I thought it was cool, like, oh, these elf weapons are like projectiles, interesting, and then like I noticed like all the fortresses were like steel, and they don't have like pure steel, right? Like the not like stone.
They can make very basic steel.
Yeah, they
actually go out of the way to point out that Rin, which is like, yeah, you've got to take up this clay and then you've got to get the carbon out of it, but it didn't put it in those terms.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and stuff like that. I just like interesting because I just must have, it was just right in front of my face.
I think their journey in Stockholm.
I guess what threw me off too.
Yeah,
I guess what threw me off is that like every time elf magic, whatever that was used, she was chanting. So that threw me off. So I was like, okay, she's chanting. This doesn't work without some kind of magic being involved. Nope. It's just
a crazy lady with a gun.
But so seriously though, I think that Skipper actually like
believing it.
Well, I don't know if it's her believing it. I think it's her trying to be the sole owner of this magic shit, because it's like, hey, I'm the walker in the ruins, right? I'm the one that knows how to get through here. Well, yeah, she knows you got to take these pills or you're gonna die, and she has the pills, and she's not gonna tell anyone else that. Or you got to say these magic words or the shit doesn't work, so people don't like just like start fiddling around with it, right? So she's kind of like got a monopoly on the guns and the watches and that kind of stuff. So she has that extra currency, right? Like the mystical, magical currency. Maybe she does believe it a little bit, but also like she knows more than she's letting on, and
True.
she hints at that a few times too.
True.
And like when they're in Stockholm, and they're going through there, and Cole like gets freaked out because he sees the billboard. He sees like this crazy beautiful elf painting or whatever, but it's like,
I don't think it was a
it's a
billboard.
picture.
It was a picture in like a window, right?
Like a store, like an advert in a store window, right? But it's like, you know, like when you're at the mall and there's just, you know, somebody dressed up in the new summer dress or whatever in the thing. He's like, oh my God, that's what the elves used to look like. I'm like, bro, it's just a human with fucking airbrush on it. But you wouldn't know that. So yeah.
Yeah, these people have probably never seen a clean person in their lives.
Right. Yeah.
This does seem like a very dirty universe.
Yeah, man. It's like,
Yeah,
it's a hard life.
Yeah, they passed the
When,
shattered
when the-
window, shards of glass that clinging to his edge, and Cole saw a woman grinning at him from inside, so like inside a building or inside a house or inside something.
Yeah.
A painting of amazing detail, motherfucker. This is a picture.
It's a fake photograph.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh man, I'm over here thinking like, damn, Legolas was a great painter. Oh shit, look at that. Nope. Nope.
I love that you've had this like epiphany right here on the episode. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's made it so much better for me.
I'm glad. I'm fucking glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be of service. Shit.
Oh.
Wow.
Well, guys, yeah, it was a pleasure as always. Thank you for having me on. Hopefully this will help some undecided listeners and fans of Joe. Like, okay, we're gonna take the plunge and get into Shattered Sea. Like I said, if you're through all the First Law books and the Devils doesn't come out until the beginning of 2025, like, do yourself a favor.
You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it.
And yeah, thanks for coming on as well, Josh. It's always great to have people on to talk about stuff.
You know you're one of our favorites.
For sure. I feel the love. Every time I get a shout out during one of the regular podcasts, I'm like, oh, I did something that it actually does. I'm like, oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Much
You're one of the homies. One of the homies. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for all of us. And your support really does mean a lot.
Make sure you follow all of our social media. Have a look at the Reddit, House of the MemeMaker, and all that good stuff. And we have a website. It's circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. And please make sure to rate and review this episode as it helps us out. Thank you all again for listening.
Brother Yarby, he is a deep, cunning man.